play a few songs. So guys, if you can, please make a little space over there for your friend and mine, Mr. Jordan Rudis of Dream Theater. You made it.
All right. Very cool.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the guitar-centric Korg Clinic.
So nice to have you here.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to
That was awesome.
I'm not going to talk tonight. I'm just going to sample it. And turn off this mic when we performing, if you can. We should have rehearsed that move before. tune to get warmed up to. And I'm glad you're all sitting down, because it's better than standing up the whole time. It's very nice to be here tonight. I haven't done a Korg clinic in a while, but it's very appropriate because this really is my home. Standing in front of my Korg keyboard, I do it year-round on the road with Dream Theater. Every night I walk on stage, and John Luca has my Kronos keyboard, bright and shiny, polished, hopefully, usually, maybe. In front of me, I walk on and it's ready to go, and you know, this last tour with this Kronos keyboard, I have to say, I should knock on wood somewhere, although it's probably not necessary, this instrument has been solid as a rock. I'm not kidding. I'm not just saying that because I'm standing here, you know, at a Korg clinic. It's really true. I have had no issues at all, partly because my man over there takes good care of me with the files and makes sure everything is cool. Let's give him a round of applause. He usually works behind the scenes, but here he is tonight. He's hanging out there, so he deserves it. So I'm very happy to be here. It's some amazing technology. One of the things I love about the Korg Kronos is that I just feel like, you know, we live in an age where so much is possible, technologically. And what's so great about this instrument is we have a company like Korg. A lot of the guys, my friends, I've known them for years. Some of them are not, but they're so talented. And they take all this existing technology, and it's kind of like you have this amazing, I guess for maybe lack of a better word, filter on what should go in a musical instrument. How do we make something really, really powerful? How do we make it so people can feel comfortable using it and it works as a whole? The biggest concept here that I can offer all of you who are interested in, like, you know, getting into like a Kronos keyboard is that, you know, when you get one of these, you're buying like the expertise of Korg. You're not buying like something that'll say, okay, you can put any software you want, it's totally open, it's flexible. You take it home and you're like, oh my God, what do I do with this thing? And that's what happens to a lot of people who go like a different route and start buying a ton of software, you know, keyboard, and maybe you're going to control your computer, you're going to hook it up, you're going to hope that this works with that, and it ends up being kind of a mess. So this instrument is totally dialed in to musicality. It's got 9 different types of synthesis in it. You know, it's got more than I think one person can really even tackle, but it's there all in a cohesive way for you to really take advantage of and to make music with. So my life with Dream Theater, I mean, you know, I'm the orchestra, I'm the band, I'm the sound effects guy. What else is there? Any sound you hear that's, you know, not a guitar, a bass, a drum, and a voice. So, and in my group, which is of course my main gig these days, there's a lot of sounds that need to be made. And when I go out live, no matter what I do in the studio, and for those of you who follow, you know, kind of what my world is all about, I use tons of software. I love it. I think it's great. I recommend it. But when I go out to play live, I have to make a decision. What is going to be the most focused, strongest way for me to go and appear and do this gig? And this is what I chose. And totally rocks. So what it lets me do is basically create any sound that's in my head. Everything from something that's extremely heavy. So if I want to, you know, have something that kicks. My crazy. All the lead stuff. To you know, a really soothing piano sound. We'll get to a little bit of the, you know, that kind of stuff a little bit later. But it covers my whole gamut, and it covers it so well. So all different kinds of splits and layers, and one of the most powerful things about the Kronos is the effects. I can have a sound that you know, I have an echo on the lead sound, and I've got some kind of like frequency shifter on an effect, and I've got the strings going through a reverb, and I have something else going through a phaser, all at the same time. So everything can live in its own environment. So I'm going to play another tune in a minute. I wanted to, and tonight's format's going to be kind of like this. I'm not going to save the questions for the very end, but what I'd like to do is have you guys think about a particular kind of question that you can ask me after this next tune, and that would be kind of about performance. Like, how do I use these instruments live? Right? We'll save, like, you know, if you want to know about Dream Theater and personal things, you can ask me that later. But for now, think about like what am I doing up here? Like what's going on? Just to I'll answer a couple things that you're bound to ask me before we, you know, get into answering every possible question under the sun, which is that the first question that people ask me is, how are you changing sounds? What goes on? They see me in front of one keyboard, and it's like, I probably get a letter every day saying, how are you doing that? And actually, it's not a tremendous mystery. And with the Kronos, it just got a whole lot smoother than ever before. And I've been using this approach for a long time. All I do is I have this little pedal down here that I assign to data increment. Right? I just go into the global command here and I just say, oh, data increment. And every time I step on the pedal, no matter what parameter I'm on, it will increment me to the next, well, in this case, patch, because I'm on a patch number. So I can be sitting there and playing, you know. So during the night in a Dream Theater gig, I might have, 500, 600 or more sounds. If we play Change of Seasons, I probably have about 1,000. But yeah, some songs just go through a whole lot of patches. And really, when you see me up on stage, about 95% of what you hear is the Kronos of everything I'm doing. I also been kind of employing the iPad a bit because it's fun and I have some apps. So that's been helping a little bit, and there's also some cool stuff I can do on that that's very different and kind of unique, so I use that. But it's really about the Kronos. And these days, one of the great things that I've been asking for many years, and Korg has graciously put it in their technology now, is the wonderful ability to actually play a sound or any kind of a combination and have it be so that I could be, let's see, let me get you a nice example. I can play this sound and hold that, right? Switch the patch and hold that, and there's absolutely no gap. This is kind of like a new thing in the keyboard world. Other people, other companies have tried it, but they've never gotten it this smooth. I can use whatever effects I want, whatever splits, whatever layer. I can make a combination that does everything this machine can do, and then I can just hold that down, step on the pedal, play the next sound, and it is absolutely seamless, which has been amazing. I just feel so comfortable. I used to be on stage. I used to play a sound, like I would play this, and I'd be like, okay, step on the pedal and play the next sound. Step and play, just to minimize any kind of a gap and hope that the cymbals would cover up, what was going on, and the little glitch or effects would make noise or whatever. Yes, it's down. So, yeah, so now it's absolutely smooth. So let's see.
You're welcome, by the way. You're welcome.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Corey. So I'm going to play another tune. You guys think about what questions you'd like to ask concerning the technology and that kind of thing. And I'm going to kind of find my patch here for the next song. Okay. Very good. This is a song that some of you might know. The first song was Screaming Head. It's a song of one of my solo albums. And this one is also from one of my solo albums. This is called Raw. It's kind of an adventure, this song. So, all right. Turn this up. And you know what?
Yeah.
It's time to rock, whatever you call this. Okay. Get it. tired as me right now. Forgot what a workout that piece is. Oh my God. Counting it alone. Can't help but feel bad for the drummer. That was Rod Morgenstein, actually, on the drums with that one. And actually, the guitar player on that track was Vinnie Moore, who did it fantastic. When I go back and I listen to these things and hear some of the solos, especially the ones that like Vinnie did, I think, oh God, the guy is so monstrous. Actually, Vinnie Moore was somebody that I started my career with. I don't know how many people know that. He's a wonderful guitar player, and I played in an album years ago called Time Odyssey. He discovered me because I was at a music convention, kind of repping, of all things, a computer music company. And I was walking around with a little keyboard that was kind of like a little bigger than this. And I saw this guy jamming on the guitar, and I said to him, "Hey, mind if I just sit in and play?" And he looked at me like, "Oh, I guess so. Like, let's do it." And I plugged in this little thing, and it actually had a pitch bender on it and modulation. And a pretty cool sound, and we had a great jam and had a lot of fun. And it was, I don't know, 2 years later, he'd been tracking me down, and his manager found me. I was living up in Woodstock, and he wanted me to play on his album. He just was looking for me. So, and I did. Played on his album. So, and then I invited him years later to play on mine. So it just kind of came around full circle. So yeah, so let's do some questions like now, because I think I'd like to have that kind of balance. You, sir.
Yeah. What were you playing to just now? Was that a track, or was any of that sequenced? Or?
That's a very good question. Well, it was sequenced when I put it together, that's for sure. But yeah, I'm just playing some backing tracks that I prepared based on the sequences.
And when you all those different time signatures, do you actually write them? I mean, do you play them first, or do you think about them? How do you usually write?
How do I do it? Well, I know. The way that I do it is that, I spend a lot of time listening to music that really involves a lot of interesting time signatures. From when I was just growing up and going to Juilliard, and my teacher kind of had me conduct Le Soir de Soldat by Stravinsky and kind of really focus on that. And I kind of like learned to really love time signatures, to the point where I think I really kind of feel them naturally, if there is such a thing as feeling a time signature naturally. So I tend to just gravitate towards it without even thinking about it, and then going back and say, oh, what was that? Like I'll be jamming and on the stage with Mike Mangini or something and playing something, and try this, and he's like, well, what time signature is it? I said, well, I didn't stop and figure it out yet. You tell me, So yeah, so it's really, it's kind of like that at this point, which is lucky, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to, do it. I'm not an academic person, so it doesn't really come from that angle, which is interesting, because it's kind of, you could think of it as, well, that's kind of academic, but...
It doesn't sound like it, though. Thanks a lot.
Cool, next.
How many layers and effects would you have the Kronos play live in a patch before you start feeling latency, or feel like you have to just sample?
It really depends on, this instrument is greater in that sense than anything I've ever played, but still I could make a combination that layered like so many things that all of a sudden, wait a minute, how many voices can I really play? And what's really cool, I noticed, is that there's a performance meter here. So as you're building your monster sound, you can actually go in and it'll tell you like how stressed or not stressed the effects CPU is, and I'm looking at it right now. It'll tell you if it's doing any voice stealing. It'll tell you what demand it is in the CPU. I've never seen a keyboard that shows it to you so, easily for the user, which is kind of cool. Yep.
So it wasn't clear for me, like from the first song.
Yeah.
Was it also like using like the track from there, or you composed everything that was playing and that was all on the keyboard?
Yes, the two songs that I played. The first one's called Screaming Head and Ra. They're songs off of my albums, and I played two. It was like a music -1 kind of thing. I did take out like the most important track on each song so I could play it live. That's kind of the way it works. Is that clear?
Yes.
Cool, yeah.
During those like heavy rhythm sections with,
Yes.
with John, what kind of sound do you use, and do you normally like pan the sounds left and right?
In Dream Theater?
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of, my job in Dream Theater as far as playing with the guitar is very, very interesting, because what I find that I do a lot is I like support the intense, heavy sounds, and I over the years I've come up with a library of really cool sounds that can do that, and from an egotistical point of view, it doesn't do me a whole lot of good, because a lot of times, like on an album, you'll say, I don't really hear the keyboards. But meanwhile, I'll be playing some like monstrous sound that, you know, is totally there. So, you know, so I have a role that like I'm, you know, I can function in that way where I can just really support the sound and take my ego out of it. Or I can like be playing a piano or an organ sound or strings where you go, oh, that's the keyboard. So, you know, we're very careful with the way that we create, you know, our layers together, because we don't want it to get too like dense. Yeah.
When you were talking earlier about using the foot switch, is it? Can you program that all on board, or do you use it with a PC, or how does that work?
Well, I programmed it all on board. What I do, okay, the Kronos is a little bit different than the last instrument made by Korg that I used, the Oasis. We now have this glorious set list mode. I guess in performance you can put your different sounds in any order you want, and you can have anything going to anything. In other words, I can program a big combination if I want to. I can program just a single program. And this is the first time we were able to kind of put those together and build your set. And you can have, what is great for me and so many people who play is like, you will never run out of like set lists. There are so many set lists. I don't know the exact number, but more than you can possibly need to use, as well as places to put your programs, especially in this new operating system that just came out. I thought that I had, you know, like this thing completely maxed. You know, I was talking to John Luca, what are we going to do? We're getting to the top, but actually no. There's a whole. I got to do a lot more programming. It's my job to fill this up, so I'm trying, but I can't get. You guys are ahead of me.
It's something like 16,000 plus total slots.
You're bragging. It is. It's crazy. And sample slots, and I've got in my entire like sample all the sound effects like that I trigger on stage live are also in here. It's crazy. Yeah, you had a question.
Can you contrast working with the Kronos versus the Oasis and the Triton Extreme? Like,
And the what? Oh, and the Triton. Well, in some ways, you know, this is a similar experience to the Oasis, but it's so much more smooth. It just, you know, all the like top-level engineers that I've been in the studio with that have heard this think that's not the same as the Oasis. It sounds, you know, it sounds different. So there's a sonic difference that people are kind of like latching onto that you can hear. It's a lot cleaner. One of the biggest things for me is actually the whole experience of playing live and being able to not have an interruption in my sound. That is huge for any of you who are like keyboard players that take your instrument to a gig. I don't know about you, but it drives me nuts when I switch patches and like things will actually stop and start again, even if it's quick. I want my reverbs to trail. I want everything to happen smoothly. So this, you know, this is like definitely the next level. Yeah.
Going back to like your days with Kurzweil, like how do the piano sounds and strings compare to those beautiful ones back? Yeah.
Well, Kurzweil definitely has some good sounds. There's no doubt that company had a period of magic, and they did some good synthesis. But as good as the sounds were, I will say to this day that of all the manufacturers out there, there's always been a real magic in the Korg community for making sounds. And again, some of this stuff, you know, probably sounds like, oh, he's paying you a lot of money to say that. But honestly, I wouldn't be here if that was the reason that, you know, for this, because the Korg world has been part of my life for a long time, and I really believe in a lot of things that are going on. In the old days, what they used to do, and to some extent now, I don't know if you can fill this in, but we used to like go from people from all different countries used to kind of like come together. Like come together in Japan and talk about like, you know, all the sounds. Like the German guy would take charge of the accordion, you know, and like the American guy would do like a jazz sound, and like each country kind of like had their specialty. Like the Italian guy like did the strings. I think it's still a little bit like that, right? We have Michele who like you can't. He says the strings are no good. The strings are no good. You have to trust those people. So it's always been a real international community of very, very talented people. So yeah. White, sure.
So I guess just a little bit kind of deviating a bit, like if you're using the Korg Kronos, let's say for, you know, writing music for games, so basically you're just by yourself. You have to create everything by yourself, including like the rhythm part and everything. Or maybe for you, like when you practice before you meet all the bands, you write all the drum tracks and stuff.
Yeah.
Is that possible, or you have to use the 3D loops and stuff?
No, well, that's one of the things that the Kronos does beautifully. It's not something that I particularly use a whole lot, but in my past I have used Korg onboard sequencers a lot. There's a great sequencer on here for audio and also for MIDI. It's very powerful. So you could sit in front of this and completely like create your idea from start to finish. you know, and that's something that a lot of people would do, especially if you're just fleshing something out. So yeah, it's one of the possibilities of this instrument. So I think I'm going to just hold off on some questions and talk a little bit about what's you know, what's inside the box, kind of like even before I start doing my thing. But first, I'm having a sip of water. So feel free to have a sip of water yourself. It's a water break.
To let you know, if you need a little inspiration, it also comes with tons of rhythms built in. If you're not sure exactly what you're looking for, every sound has a rhythm associated with it. So
Right. And that's actually part of what I'm showing next. Good,
I'm
great
sorry.
segue. Oh my God. Yeah. All right. So, what comes in the box? Let's see. Get some sound. One of the things that's really wonderful here is that now things have become even a little bit more dialed in, like your basic sounds, like your piano sound, your electric piano sound, your organs, things like that. And they're very easy to have like a great sound, but then to modify them as well. So in the Kronos, there's this really, really amazing, that's called the German Grand. And I'm going to highlight the sound in just a little bit because I'm going to play something that really uses it. But it's so, so nice, and everybody's really been responding to it on the road. You know, like we're dynamic, and it plays so beautifully. And you can do things really easily, like you can take the lid off the sound, you can change the resonance. Thanks. Yeah, we all like that song. That's cool. But now we offer now we offer friendly pictures of the piano and let you open and close the lid and all kinds of really nice things. And so I'll get back to the piano in a little bit. So I'm just going to run through some of the really cool things. I made some pretty fun sounds. I know I'm not going to get through them all, but this instrument again inspired me a whole lot. I mean, you have things like these wonderful electric pianos. You hit a button and change the octave, or maybe had a nice little tremolo effect. Everything is very dialed. Again, you can easily get to the next level with stuff. And add your drum track. And even take it beyond that. So every combination, I think it's everyone, pretty much if you turn on your drum track, you turn on Karma, it's going to do something really, really cool. And it's, you know, so inspiring. Here's a familiar electric piano sound for you. And if I decide to go into Drum and Karma land. So if you're a composer and you're writing it, you know, just want to get some ideas, you hit the button and you're halfway there. And I've seen like some of the videos online too with the musicians, you know, like some of the guys is going, man, you know, I'm in the studio, I'm writing some tracks, I just hit the button and I'm inspired. Well, it's really true. There's a lot of that. And actually in preparing for this clinic, it was so cool because I was able to go back and actually use some of the functionality of the Kronos that I don't use in Dream Theater. So things that really inspire me, things like the wave sequencing. I don't know if all of you know what wave sequencing is, but I have a good buddy named Jack Hotop. He's not here, is he? No. Jack Hotop has been with Korg for many, many years, and he's one of the best programmers in the business. And I remember the day, because I was working at Korg back then, this was many years ago, before some of you were born. I shouldn't date myself. But anyway, so I was there at the office when this box came in, right? And we're like, what is it? What is it? And Jack's like, yeah, it's the wave station. I'm like, okay, let's check it out. So he took it out of the box, and he kind of like hoarded it to himself. He's over there, he's doing it, he's got his headphones on. He's like going crazy for like a couple of hours. He was literally going nuts, and we're all thinking, what is going on over there? Finally, he kind of, emerged with this big smile on his face. He goes, guys, you got to hear this. This is the coolest thing. And so the first sound that he made, I really think it was this sound. It's still available. Okay, so this is one note, and this is what's called wave sequencing. And this power is still in this machine, and it's really, really awesome. To this day, it's one of the coolest things that's ever happened. So anytime I play one note, and it pretty much is what it says. It's a sequence of waveforms. You decide on how long you want each waveform to go for. You decide on the pitch. There's a lot of control over which one, the crossfade between them. And so then if you start playing chords and changing the notes, you can do some very cool things with the wave sequence. Let me improvise a little bit and let's see what happens. Very cool stuff. I'll never forget the day that I went to a Cirque du Soleil event. It was many years ago. And sat there, and the show started, and I'm not kidding, I heard something like this. And I'm thinking, oh my God, that's my sound. And then, of course, the music world changed a lot, and people start lifting the entire tune, and so. But yeah, it was my wave sequence, and to this, when I was going through the sounds, actually, the details of what wave sequences are in there, I saw some of my sounds. I was like, oh my God, this is so crazy. I think one's even called Jordan. Which I didn't know that. That kind of blew my mind. So yeah, the wave sequencing. So I made a couple sounds just to play through. Just to have some fun with, that use a little bit of the wave sequencing, because they're awesome, and some of the cool effects. And let me just have some fun here and show you what can happen. Okay. always say, you know, like, you know if an instrument is good by if it inspires you. You just, you know, that's the way you can tell. And I'll never forget, okay, I'm at a NAMM show, right? And the Karma just came out, the Korg Karma. And I think Jack said, come on over, you know, you try this new machine, it's really, really cool. And so I walked over to it. I was in the middle of a very busy day, so it's always crazy for me at NAMM. And I sat there, and I'm playing it, going, oh my God, this thing is so unbelievable. I was so inspired just by going through the sounds. So when I got back to New York, we were all ready to start up again, what was it, on 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, one of the Dream Theater albums. And I thought, I gotta have that instrument in the studio. It's gonna be, you know, it's gonna be a part of it. Somehow, I didn't exactly know how. But what ended up happening was, got the instrument in the studio and started getting really inspired. And you know, it was obvious to the other guys that I was just going crazy with all these ideas. So John Petrucci walks out to the studio, the live room, and he says, Jordan, he says, I got an idea. He said, I'm gonna like call out some kind of a mood, and then you're gonna like just play it. So he'd be like, let me see if I can find some sound that might do the trick. So he'd be like, play something, you know, glorious, and I'd be like, play something that's just like really sad. And I'd be like, I think we composed the whole album like in that period of like 15 minutes. I'm not kidding. I just would switch to whatever sound it was, and I wasn't even being picky. I would literally just like pick something and go, okay, what is this? Okay, go record. Like, I don't know what that is, but we could record that too, and that could be the next Dream Theater album. I don't know. So that's the danger of having one of these instruments also, is because you'll close your eyes, you'll pick a sound, you go, like, what's this? Oh my God, it's playing itself. I don't even need to play. But it's just, you know, there's a lot of magic there. This is what it is. And the guys, my friends here know, you know, what it's all about. Even for people like me who actually went to Juilliard and can move my fingers and play, there's still a lot to be said about having the instrument provide this kind of like magical musical support for you. So that's all really cool. Let me go back to here. One thing that's awesome is the fact that you're combining in the Kronos this amazing combination of like realistic sounds with sounds that can be any kind of synthesis, just wild, crazy stuff. And I love to create sounds that have that kind of mixture to them. Here's a sound that is, I found a factory sound that inspired me, and I was like, you know what, I want to take that and bring it to like yet another level. So check this out. Of course, there's the vector joystick. Can do some cool things. And you've got your regular joystick down here, which is adding a nice little effect. And your ribbon, there's a lot of things you can be tweaking. And then we can take it to the next level, switch patches. So yeah, it just leads to, for an improviser like myself, it just leads to some really fun stuff. One guy I was in a band with once said, Jordan, he says, you throw away more good music than anyone I know. Well, what can I do? You know, no, this is what I do. I'll play one more sound that I made just to show the depth of the instrument, and then maybe move on to another piece. Let's see, it would help if I turn the volume up. It's the problem with electronic instruments. You have to have the volume up. I just think this is a really beautiful guitar sound. Sorry if any of you are guitarists. You can't do that. You can't do that on a guitar. Well, you know what? I don't care. We'll do a nice little gentle fade. I was talking to somebody about fades the other day. I said, you know what, people don't usually do a fade in a live performance. It's something you can totally, like, it's okay if you're listening to, like, music and there's a fade, right? You say, all right, so there's a fade, you repeat the thing, like in, I think on Dark Eternal Night, there's a fade, right? But if we did that, imagine if we did that live, like Dream Theater's up there, and all of a sudden we're playing, we're jamming, and like things are fading out while you watch us continue to. You see Mike Mangini hitting the drums like some kind of an animal, and like it's fading. Very, very cool. The fading concept is definitely strange. So yeah, so I'm going to play something else. This is the next thing I'm going to play is a classical thing that I wrote. Some of you might have heard tastes of it. Online. I'm going to play the first movement of a song called Explorations for keyboard and orchestra. And actually, yeah. All right. Sound. So this particular piece is going to feature this amazing piano sound. Basically, what's going to happen live is the piano. It's like a piano concerto. If you want to tap your foot, you feel like you can, I'll be watching to see how accurate you are. Snap, clap, sing along, whatever you want. Thank you so much. That's no pop song. No. But it's a lot of fun. It's a good workout. I'm still looking for an orchestra. If any of you are like conductors and have an orchestra available for me to record that piece with, raise your hand. We'll see you after the show. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, I don't want to move on to writing my next one until that one is properly recorded. But it's a little hard because the piece is slightly... Is that an orchestra beeping in? The piece is slightly challenging, so I've got to find people who can count to 13 and other things like that. It's not the Kronos, ladies and gentlemen. That's still working fine. Some other technical glitch that we have here. Is there time for Dark Eternal Night? Sure. I ask you guys. Time for Dark Eternal Night. No, there's not time for Dark Eternal Night. Well, while I'm loading this file, let's go back to any questions that you may or may not have. So if somebody has a question, go ahead, Nick.
How many, you said it used 9 types of synthesis? I guess like normal oscillators in the wavetable, wave synthesis you already mentioned, but...
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to give my voice a small break and pass it over to my good friend from Korg who can explain it probably even better than me about the different types of synthesis. You want to cover it?
Was there a specific question?
No, because I just wanted to know how much there were, because I could guess the oscillators in FM. Wavetable, I could have guessed, but...
Well, there is an FM style engine called Mod 7, which gives you 6 oscillators, plus you can mix a sample in there. Then there's physical modeling, 3 different types of analog modeling, some vintage synths in there, the Poly 6 and the MS-20 are modeled in there. And then we've got a new, a more modern, rethought analog modeling engine too. And then there's sample playback. We've got huge libraries of samples that are being played back directly from a solid-state drive, which is actually built in. So you go into the keyboard room in a store like this, and the piano sound that he's been playing is like 4 times the size of the next best keyboard's entire library. It's pretty beastly.
You're a wave shaper?
Yes, yeah. There's lots of different types of wave shaping, specifically in the Mod 7 engine.
Anybody else have a question? In the back. Sorry, yeah, way back first.
Okay, I have a question about the song Disappear from 6 Degrees. I know it's not a chord-specific question necessarily. There's this very cello kind of sounding like melody that runs through the whole song, and I've just always wondered, is that a cello through Strange Effects, or is that you on keyboard?
It's a cello through Strange Effects, yes. It's me on keyboards and a cello sound that I found. Okay. Yeah, I was into a distorting cello phase. If you were going to use a cello, it had to be distorted. I think it came from like I don't know, listening to a lot of Radiohead or something like that. Dream Theater was in their experimental stage, or in the studio, just doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and reversing things and adding fuzz, putting a... yeah, that's my distorted cello sound. Actually, do any of you know what sound this is?
Snarling pig.
The snarling pig, that's right. That's okay. Most famous Korg sound there is. Who would have thunk? Anyway, yeah.
Do you MIDI up your Kronos to any other hardware modules or software modules you play live?
Let's see, at this point, what do we MIDI it to? I have it changing patches on the Continuum, I think. And I used to have it connected to a vSynth, but I don't think we do that anymore.
It's just going through, it's going out of the Kronos, through the Continuum, and then into the vSynth that we use.
But we only use it to change patches because we play the vSynth from the Zen Riffer and from the Continuum.
Right, we have 2 separate
vSynths. It's, you know, the reality of my gig is it's 95% of this and a couple of other little moments with other slightly mentionable items. So, yeah.
I have a question about...
Not Steinway, though. They don't have anything to do with that. But...
I had a question about like the reader, because I noticed for certain songs...
Yes, my music pad.
Yeah, like about how much are you actually retaining?
Depends what song it is. When you're my age, you'd be using it too. It depends what I'm doing. You know what I'm doing.
Yeah, because I noticed that you really zone in for certain moments.
Yeah, right. You know, I come from this Juilliard background of like notes, and it just, I don't know, like it helps in certain situations to be focused.
Who do you see directing the film that your music's going to be in?
Oh wow, I don't know. That would be nice. How about you?
I was thinking Tim Burton for some.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, I don't know. I'll let you put names in a hat or something like that. I've always wanted to do that, but you know, the music business is so funny. Like, just because you're in one door doesn't mean you're like in another one. And you spend a whole lot of time moving in one direction. And then if you want to go the other way, it's kind of like nobody knows or cares. Like, it doesn't matter what you do, who you are. You know, they want trusted names and stuff. I think I'm going to play this piece because I don't want to run out of time here. So, it's a gentle ballad that I wrote with my friends, and I wanted to share it with you. It's called Dark Eternal Night. You can relax to this one and turn off the microphone so I don't get tempted to sing along. Starts with the snarling pig. No, actually it starts with the guitar right there.
This
Another gentle ballad, as I said. You know, it's funny, a quick story before I play this next piece. That piece, okay, so I remember the day John Petrucci he got, all his amps set up. He had like 15 amps in the studio. He's playing through all of them. And he's just like in some kind of a vicious rock and roll meditation. And by that I mean he's playing like repeatedly on his lowest string. I think he had the 7th string on it at that point. He's just, I couldn't tell one note the man was playing. But he was so totally invested in it that I went out and had a cup of tea or something like that and relaxed and probably played some Mozart or something. He's in there making this ungodly sound. I swear it was incredible. I don't know what it was. But when he emerged, he came out with the riff from Dark Eternal Night. I'm thinking, what is that? What is this man doing? I think it's a pretty cool riff, but when I first heard it, it took a little while to kind of like get in that headspace and like understand. Sometimes it's probably my Juilliard background. It's like when I hear some of those really distorted, very low tones, I have perfect pitch, and I'm like, what note is that? Because it sounds like, I heard a track by the Deftones the other day, which they're a very good group. I'm thinking, what notes are these guys? Are those notes that I learned in school? I don't think so. Anyway, so he composed this first part of the song, and it was really rocking, and it was wild and crazy, and I thought it was cool. I needed a couple, breaks or whatever to go and play my Mozart. But when we were listening back to what he had created, all of a sudden I got this funny idea in my head, and I'm thinking, this rhythm thing, and I'm thinking, God, that's a little quirky. I better not share it with these guys. But it wouldn't go out of my mind. It just wouldn't leave. And we're about to walk into the studio, and I have an option. I wasn't very involved in the first part, because John was in his meditation there, and I just didn't have anything I wanted to add to that. So, but I had this thing, and I said, you know what, I'll introduce it to Mike Portnoy. Maybe he'll like it. So I said, I got this thing. I think I sang it to him first. I didn't even play it. Literally, what do you think about going from to he's like, I kind of like that. And okay, and then I think I sang it to John. He was like, what? He had the same reaction to my part that I had to his part. Anyway, to make a long story short, we put the two sections together, and he ended up really liking the middle. I ended up liking what was around it. Anyway, this next song is called Breaking All Illusions. And then we'll take questions and then go home and drink champagne to celebrate. Backing track, please. 1, 2.
as a test of faith, streams of thought awaken. Dear realities, singularities, breaking all illusions.
Your living is determined not so much by what life brings to you, as by the attitude you bring to life. Not so much by what happens to you, as by the way your mind looks at what happens. Out of suffering have emerged the strongest souls, the most massive characters are seared with scars.
Sunburst of heat, burning source of light, master for destruction. Postmodern love is understanding truth, changing my direction. Live in the moment, breathing a new beginning. Wisdom as I am learned to know. Life's biggest battles I've been and fought alone. My spirit brings me home. Animal thoughts flow through my consciousness, trying to catch it left behind. Test of will, I crash out to one speed. Stars on fire in the mind. Searching out, reaching in to hide where I began. Signs remembered in the
Very cool. Thank you all for coming out tonight. This is a lot of fun for me. I want to thank my very good friends at Korg. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging around a little bit. I'll see you all